Hello everyone, Mike Silverman here. Welcome back to another update about the turn-based multiplayer role-playing esport game for the web browser that I'm working on. In this update, we've added ability trees, so we can select the abilities for our characters when they level up. And if we click on abilities, we can see that our different characters have different skill trees or ability trees, and I went with the Diablo 2 style because I always thought that was a really simple but also interesting and there's some depth to it kind of way to implement a skill selection system. So the way it works is you have some skill points that you get when you level up, and there's other ways to get them, which we'll talk about later. But then you can hover over an ability, and then if you click it, your cursor will change to the plus symbol, which means if we click it again, we will allocate a skill point, and the arrows change color to show that we could now get these next abilities that would have required a previous ability to get. So now that we have this ability, we'll be able to get this one. And if we add that, we'll see that the arrow will change color for the next one in line. And now we could be able to get this one. And our abilities are going down when we click them because we're using them to learn new spells. Then if we were to try to click this one, we require the prerequisite, which means the spell that's required to have it. So we could come here and get that one, and then now we could get it. So now if we close out of this, we could see we have all these options before that we didn't have to cast different spells. And if we select a different character, they don't have those abilities because that was not the character we learned the spells on. Something about the ability tree that was also some time went into working on it was the way you can select it is not only with the mouse. So we have these number keys here that you can select. So if we hit 1, we're in the first column and we can see it's highlighted. And then I can use the next and previous buttons to select different columns. And these skills here correspond to the numbers I could press. And then I could allocate with the F button. And then once I'm looking at this one, you can see it's highlighted with a shadow there. And if I next and previous, it's going between these two in the same column. Then I can, I changed characters there. So here we go. You can see different ways to select it. So if you memorize the order of buttons to get a certain spell when you're trying to go really fast in the dungeon, you would be able to, uh, get that spell really fast. Another way to increase the different types of spells you can get is now the support class, and right now we have no support class. But this would be a way to add in another class's abilities to your class. So we are a warrior, and this character over here is a rogue. Okay, hold on. So, uh, yeah, there is bugs right now because I haven't cleaned it up yet, but we have enough that we can demonstrate. Anyway, let's get our stuff again here. Okay, well, we know how to reproduce that bug. Okay, so we're a warrior. We want to become a rogue support class so we can get the abilities of a rogue. And what we could do is read a skill book for that. So also, I think I figured out the bug. But yeah, so to do that, we would have to read a certain book that you can get, which would add to the level of your support class. And I just gave this character these books so that they could read them. And we have Volume 1, Volume 2, and Volume 3. Since we have no support class, we can read the lowest level book. So let's use that. And it should also increase our stats. So we have 82 maximum HP and 12 mana. Let's read it. Now I have 86 and 15 because we just got the stats of a level 1 rogue added onto our warrior. And if we open the skill tree, we can see now we could get some rogue skills if we wanted to, but actually we need level 2 rogue to learn this. So getting the first rank of a support class only gives you the stats. and that would make you want to learn the next one, which we happen to have the book to do that. We can't read the level 1 book again because you're familiar with the concepts in the book, so we would have to read at least the level 2 book, but you could read the level 3 book if you had a bunch of level 3 books, as long as it is a higher level book than your support class. But we have the level 2, so let's use that. And we'll get the stats. And we have ability points for reading the book as well, since we got a level of something, which we got 2 rogue levels, so we got an ability point for each one of those. And then we could learn a rogue skill. And now we have the blind skill on this character. That is one other thing that I want to talk about here is the descriptions now. So the ability descriptions are now much more detailed. So if we click on this one, we can see on the side we have what it does on rank 1, and all these things are dynamically generated from the code that is shared between the client and the server. So when we say this costs 4 mana, this is coming from the exact same code that runs to charge you the mana when you use it. And this damage is done from the exact same code that is used to calculate the damage. So it's all coming from the same source of truth, and there's not really a risk that the description would say the wrong thing because it is based on the same code that runs to actually cast the spell. Then for subsequent ranks of things, you could see it just shows you what changes. So it costs only 1 action point here, and it costs 2 action point, and then this costs 3. Well, that's actually wrong because you can't have 3 action points. I'll have to fix that. But yeah, the mana, like it costs 12 mana here. But the crit chance doesn't change. The fact that it can't be parried or countered doesn't change. But like the different stacks of burning would change. And it tells you what burning is over here if you don't know what that is, and a little brief description of the ability and yeah, when you can use it. The other thing here is we can still see our stats. So this lets you see the damage go up. So right now we can see Firewall does 2 to 5 damage for rank 1, but if we add to our spirit, I'm adding, and the damage should, well, it's going up for actually the higher level ones. Rank 1 is hard to increase it for. There we go, we got 3 to 6 because it's so low and it's percentage based. But yeah, you could see your numbers going up as you allocate different stat points like this. And I always thought that was a fun aspect in Diablo when you see your damage go up when you add stat points in. We also now have the affinities shown in the character menu. So let's look at it more over here. It's easier to see it. Yeah, so this is like your weaknesses and strengths against different elements and types of physical damage like piercing damage and stuff like that. And I made some of the icons myself, like I made these little ones, but then most of these were taken from free icons website. Now, how do we actually get our spreadsheets and our tomes and our guides and stuff, the books? Well, you get them from the vending machine, but you can't get them on level 1. You got to be at least on level 2 of the dungeon, or floor 2, and our floor is only well, that's our current room. Our current floor is 1. So we're going to have to get through a battle and go down to another floor of the dungeon to see how we can actually get a skill book, because you normally wouldn't just start with it in your inventory like this. I just have it for testing. And while we go to this next battle, we will be able to see another thing which I added, which was the Firewall spell. So let's go to the next room, and we'll just do some normal attacks for now because, okay, there's a lot of lag there. All right, so we will cast the Firewall, and we will start off with rank 1 Firewall. So what this is going to do is makes this a little bit of a tiny firewall that when you run across it will burn you. Since I have fire absorption for testing purposes turned on, it is healing me when I run over it. And the firewall is up here. It shows you it's rank 1 and has 2 stacks left. And it's also been added to the turn order bar. So once its turn comes along, it will take one of its stacks away. And if it has 0 stacks left, then it will disappear. And you'd have to cast it again if you want to keep having the firewall. Then another thing that's been added is the action points. So we have 2 action points on a turn, and you can do things that cost only 1 action point, like use an auto injector. Let's give some mana to this person so they can have some more mana. And one of our little clocks disappeared here, so we can only do 1 more action. Another thing that would take an action is switching weapons. So if I select their bow, their turn actually ended because they used their 2 action points. So this character is dual wielding. They got 2 weapons, one in each hand, and normally when you attack, it would swing with both hands, which we could see. So you got the main hand attack, then the offhand attack. But if you use one of your action points on your turn, so let's say we used a green auto injector. Well, I should have healed myself, but whatever. So then now we only have one of our action points left, and you can see it grayed out the second part of the attack. And this actually also shows the type of damage you're going to do depending on what weapon you're wearing. And since we're wearing daggers that can do piercing or slashing damage, it's showing piercing or slashing. And since I have one in each hand, it is showing it for each hand, but it's grayed out to show you you're only going to be able to do your main hand attack. Well, they actually countered us, so that would also cancel it, but it would only have swung their one hand attack anyway. So let's see if we can get the firewall to disappear. All right, so now we're going to pass our turn, and the firewall only has 1 stack remaining, so it should go away, and it did. Now that was only a rank 1 firewall, but what if we used a higher level of it? So this is also a new thing, which is you can choose the ranks of your spells. So if we click 2 or 3, or you can just click here, you can choose the rank of the spell you're going to use, and it also gives you information like it costs 12 mana for the 3rd rank. The clock means it takes 1 action point to cast, and it will deal 7 to 10 physical fire damage. But, well, it's a firewall, so it's only when you walk through it, which you would have to just know that from reading the longer description here. And that is a new thing, which you can see. Oh, yeah, so here's fire spell. It says the second one costs 2 action points, which means if I use an auto injector, I actually couldn't cast a rank 2 fire spell, different than the firewall. So that is something that would make you think about, well, do I want to cast the rank 2 on my turn? Then I have to commit to only doing that, and I won't be able to use a healing item or something else that would take part of your turn. But the firewall, so we'll do a rank 3. Rank 3 is going to incinerate any projectile that goes through it, which is a special thing. It also looks a lot bigger. So if we try to shoot an arrow here, we're going to see that the arrow is not going to be able to go through the firewall. And there's like a little puff of smoke, which is not super visible, but you can see them try to shoot through, try to look for the smoke. It's there. I think I need to make the particles bigger. But yeah, it's kind of hard to see it in the huge firewall. Let's just keep shooting through because we want it to go down to become a rank 2 firewall, which it will once it gets 2 stacks. So if it ever loses its stacks below its rank, it will become a lower rank of a firewall. What you can do here, though, is cast something like fire, because this is not a projectile, this is just magical fire going onto them from nowhere. So that would be a way that if you knew if you were fighting against arrow type enemies that shoot arrows at you, you could defend yourself using the firewall and then use your spells that are not projectiles to attack without them hitting you. So it kind of depends on what type of monsters you're fighting. Of course, if you go through this one, it does a little more damage because it's a higher level firewall. And that is how it works. So when we get to rank 2, though, we pass my turn here. This is still going to be rank 3 because its stack went down, but we got to wait for this turn for it to go down. Then the rank 2 does a different thing, which is it actually lights the projectiles on fire. So that should be right after this. And we could see on that turn, it became a level 2 firewall, which is a medium-sized firewall. Now when we shoot this arrow through, we should see the projectile turn to a different color, have a little smoke trail, and it actually does fire damage to them. This character, we want to get this ability. So this is chaining split arrow, which shoots an arrow at each target, and the firewall also works with this one, even though it's implemented a little bit differently. You can see the little smoke trails. The lag actually helps us see the smoke trail. Yeah, so we're almost done killing these guys, and then we'll be able to see how we can get our support job or our support class books out of the vending machine because we'll be able to go to level 2. Now, while we're killing these guys, I could talk about why I wanted to make a firewall first out of all these different actions that I want to add is because it was the most difficult thing I could think of to add. So there's never any sort of like cast it on the ground type of thing. There's never this sort of entity that's separate from somebody who's fighting in the battle. And there were like burning conditions, like when you burn them, then this action of burning happens and it's getting used by the condition. So I kind of based it off that, but it was a distinct type of thing. And by trying to focus on these more difficult actions first, I'll be able to figure out what's missing in my action implementations system that needs to be changed. So I don't want to run into the situation where I've made a whole bunch of different actions and then I realize that I want to add one, but I can't because it's so different than the ones that exist that it would just require reworking all those 80 different things and it would take you months to fix it. So that's why I want to go for the more difficult ones first. And Firewall was definitely pretty difficult for me. It took me about 2 weeks to tweak and kind of cram it into my existing system. But now I see what needs to be changed and I can change it early on in this process. So here we are at the vending machine on floor 2, which we're on floor 2. So we can now operate the machine and we can trade for books. And you could choose which book you want. So it tells you, so this is like for the warrior support class. And this one is for the rogue support class. And each one has its own requirement, which this one actually, we have it, which is just by chance we actually have that because I get a random item that I gave myself on each character. Yeah, let's go to one that we can't do. So this one, it's like, oh, you don't have any items here. It requires a one-handed melee weapon with the strength attribute, and items must be completely broken. So the idea behind this is, let's say you are a warrior, and, or yeah, well, we're a rogue, but let's say you're a rogue and you want to become a mage as your support class, then you need to find this type of weapon that a mage would have used. And in this case, it has to be a staff or a wand that has spirit on it. This is a rotting branch of spirit. It has no durability, which is also required, and it has 3 spirits, so this is one we could trade. And the reason is for having it to be broken is because that means you would have had to actually hit some monsters with this. You would have had to use the weapon that was a weapon that a mage would have used, since presumably mages like to have weapons like wands and staffs with spirit on them. Since it's a magical, it gives you more mana. That's like the kind of stats they like. And now you, as the rogue, have kind of experienced what it's like to be a mage. You're like, the staff. I can understand how to wield a staff now, and like I know what it's like to have some mana, and I've spent some time doing that. So then it kind of earns you this right to have the skills of a mage, and that's the idea behind requiring these type of items. The other thing that I thought could happen with this is when you loot the items from the monsters, normally you would see something like this and you're like, well, I'm a rogue, I don't really want that, I'll probably just sell it. Or in this game, you just convert it to shards, which is the money for the game. But now there's these items you want to look out for because you're like, ooh, that's actually could be used as a excuse me, as a support class item. I'll save that. Maybe I'll break it when I'm fighting some lower level stuff, so I don't need to be wearing my best gear and I could afford to use like a not optimal weapon. Then I'll trade it for the book. Then maybe I'll save that book for one of my other characters, or I'll give it to my friend, or I could sell it on the Discord. And it adds this extra value to items that might otherwise have just been considered to be trash items. Anyway, we'll receive an item, skill book item, equal to lower value between the items level 1, because it's item level 1, oops, right there, and half your current floor level, which is 1. Well, we're on level 2, yeah, so basically, if you want to get higher level books, you have to go to higher level floors to use their vending machines, and you have to have higher item level items. So that way you can't just become super powerful on the low floors. Anyway, we'll confirm that. We obtain the book. And now we have Arcane Tome. We can use it. We'll get more mana, presumably. Yeah, they got a lot of mana. And then we have some of the mage abilities. And I'm not going to click that because I'm afraid. Actually, I think the bug won't happen. Yes, I think it's only when you go in and you're examining ability and then you switch. So that'll be something for me to fix. There's going to be a lot of stuff to fix because my strategy was try to make the firewall, which required a lot of changes, and a lot of them are going to be hard to read because it's just not like really programmed with the best practices necessarily. Or, you try your best, but you're trying to like squish this code into a thing that wasn't really designed for it. And then once you've done that and made it work, you can see what needs to change exactly. And it's hard to know that before you actually made the thing. So it's a little uncomfortable. So I like having the clean code, but I think it is somewhat necessary to try to just make it work first, and then you can make it work well. Now, one thing I never did is cast the firewall in the vending machine room. So let's do a big one. No, wait, let's do a small one. And then I can show you how you can cast a higher level one and like increase its size. Yeah, that's fun. And now for the big one. And now if you try to go to the vending machine, you will be lit on fire. Not really though, because you don't have to walk over there. And I'm not going to let you cast this out of combat. I just had it like that because I was testing it. So there you go. That's a sight you will not probably see in the main game, and doesn't look too bad, I think. From here on out, I think I'm going to work on more difficult abilities. I organize all the abilities that I have ideas for, which is over 100 abilities, into different categories based on what it would take to implement them. So these are like all the, yeah, well, I'm not going to go one by one, but for example, the next one I think I'm going to do is Tame Beast. So this is like you find a wolf in like a monster that you would normally fight. Then you get to low health, kind of like in Pokemon, where you can capture a lower health Pokemon. Then you would use your Tame Beast ability. Then you'd be able to summon the beast, and the beast would attack certain targets based on its AI, like maybe wolves like attacking low health targets, or maybe you could tame like a mechanical robot thing, and that's like attacking biological things more than robots or something. But then when you get a higher level skill of it, you could now say attack that target, and it would use one of your action points on your turn to give it orders. And then you'd have more control over it, and you could see there's like a lot of levels and depth to that. So I don't know exactly how I'm going to do that, but there are pieces already in place. Like we have the ability to have things with health, and we have monsters that have artificial intelligence already. So you kind of just have to put that thing on your team and give it AI and have its AI depend on something that you set with an action. So easier said than done. And I think that's going to be the one that will give me a little more trouble. Hopefully not as much trouble as Firewall. And I could talk a lot more about Firewall and the details of it, but I think that would probably be a little bit boring, and we don't need to get into that now. But if you want, you can hit me up on the Discord and love to talk about it more. In any case, thanks for stopping by. Next time, hopefully, I'll have a nice, cool new ability and clean up some bugs. Definitely have to refactor the code after this mess I made. And yeah, we should be on our way to having more actions. And maybe once we do that, we can create some monsters that have different actions. And that's basically it. So yeah, until next time, goodbye.